Hey, it's me, your favorite neighborhood lesbian, just dropping by to let you know that today's episode of the podcast is brought to you by you, the patrons on Patreon, and anybody else supporting this podcast. If you're not a patron, you can become one for as little as $3 a month and get early access to episodes and vlogs that I drop. You can also be involved in exclusive live streams for patrons only and many other giveaways that I'm in the process of planning on doing. So if you want to become a patron, click the link in the description below and help support this podcast and the show. And to all the current patrons, thank you so much for the support. I love you all very much. I hope you enjoy this episode. Okay, we are recording now. And today, for this episode, I have Tayden Bundy, the author of Beyond Lincoln, A History of Nebraska Hauntings. And I figured it would be fitting because this episode is, if you're watching this, it's Halloween. Nice. Thank you for being on here, Tayden.
Thank you.
Okay, so I have a question before we go into like some ghost stories.
Right.
What prompted you to want to write something like this?
I love ghost stories. So I've been listening to ghost stories since I was a kid. I actually had there was a guy that came, he was to my middle school in 7th grade, and he told this great ghost story about this local building called the CC White building. And I was just so enthralled by this ghost story. So ever since then, I've just been very much just in love with ghost stories. And I was in college and had the opportunity to do an independent studies project. And I was like, I want to do something with ghosts. I want to try, and I love history. I studied history in college as well. I was like, I just want to mix them together. So what I did with the book was I took ghost stories and then I ended up trying to find out if they were true. So the idea behind the book, right, like the idea behind the book was like, hey, there's these ghost stories, people pass them down. They're like oral folklore most of the time. Yeah. Do they really have any validity, So I started really digging into them, looking up newspaper reports, things like that. And that's where the book came in, was sort of trying to do something different, where I was actually taking the ghost stories, but then trying to find out, if they actually had any relevance to where we lived or the places that they said they were at. And it ended up that a lot of them had a lot of, maybe not the exact things that happened in the ghost stories, but some of them were very close. Some of them are almost 100% true. So based off of the ghost stories. Yeah. So some of like the Spring Ranch Bridge is one of the stories from Spring Ranch, Nebraska that I wrote about. And that one is very, very, the ghost stories are very, very close to the actual history involved. So, I mean, but then some of them are just like, you have no idea where this ghost story came from. Right. Passed down from somewhere else. But that was the idea behind the book. And I just love ghost stories. I just love history, and and I've lived here in Lincoln my entire life, and I just love the stories that we have. So I just wanted to put them in a book.
I feel like Lincoln is like the place too where ghost stories need to take place. I don't know why when I think of Lincoln, Nebraska, I think of ghosts. I don't know why.
Because there's nothing around here and we're just sort of floating as in existence. Yeah.
Right. It's a ghost town.
Yeah.
I mean, I started reading it, and I read a couple of ghost stories, and there was one in the beginning. I don't remember what it was called. Hold on. Let me see. It was the one about, there were two, you even went into how there could be different versions of stories too. There was two versions of the same story or something like that.
Like 20th and Washington.
Yes, that's it.
Which is literally just it's a street corner, 20th and Washington, in the middle of town. And the first stories were about a grown man, probably early 20s, and being shot on a corner by a car that just speeds up and stops. And then later on, somehow it evolved into being a child.
A kid,
and there's no, it was just a little boy sitting on the corner playing with his toys, and then all of a sudden it's a drive-by now instead of a car stops. It's just someone just drives past. And I mean, I don't know if there's not a whole lot of drive-bys that happen in Lincoln, but and definitely not kids. But somehow it just sort of changed from being about an adult to a child, and I could never figure out why that happened. But I feel like maybe with ghost stories, a lot of times with ghost stories, kids tell them and kids pass them on to each other, or adults tell them to kids to scare them away from things to keep them morally right, I guess.
Right,
So
right,
like,
right,
hey,
right.
don't do this. So then, this won't happen to you.
Don't
So
stay out
ghost stories,
past dark. You're gonna get shot.
right. So that, something like that, like, or don't play in this air. I don't know, whatever it might be. But so,
Right.
yeah, I have no idea why it changed into a boy. But that's one interesting thing about ghost stories, is that they can start as one thing and then become something completely different. And that's why I was interested in the history, because I was like, how does this happen? Like, how does it, where does it even come from?
Well, you went to school for English and history, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. So like this is like both of your stuff
Right.
one thing. Did you obviously you did a lot of research for the book, right?
I did, yeah. I read a lot of newspaper reports, a lot. I mean, and the thing with stuff like ghost stories that are from the late 1800s, or, I mean, there's not much. Nebraska, 1860s-ish is like where things started really picking up. And
Right.
so anything back further than that is, I mean, there's really nothing in existence. But, so, I mean, but newspaper reports from back in the day, there, people spell names based off of how people are saying it to them. They don't, write it out for them, or,
There was no
so
Google.
right. There's no way to look things up, so it's like, and even some of the records, the names can just be spelled wrong just based off of how someone heard it or how someone spells. So
Right.
sometimes there's a lot of discrepancies between one newspaper report and another, maybe even from the same person that wrote it, even days apart, where they spelled the name differently or the dates are wrong or whatever. So sometimes it can get kind of weird. But yeah, I did a lot of newspaper reports, did genealogy, looked into where people were living at, things like that.
That's
And
cool. That was what I found interesting about like when I started reading it was that you took like you said like folklore like we have ghost stories out here too on Long Island.
right,
There's a haunted road that's apparently but you took those stories and put like real shit to it so to actually kind like gives the stories validity. Like, yeah, somebody
right.
actually really died on this street corner and people have multiple accounts of feeling like cold spots on this specific street corner. Like, do you? I mean, you obviously believe in ghosts.
I do believe that there's a possibility of ghosts.
Okay. Okay.
I'm a huge skeptic. Like, I'm a huge
Same.
skeptic, and I go on paranormal investigations. I'm really interested in people's stories. I've had a couple of weird things happen to me, but I will do everything I can to try to prove it wrong before I would ever say that I thought it was paranormal. So like,
Same.
I and I believe people's stories. I believe that things happen to them. Sometimes people might be embellishing things a bit,
Oh my god. Yeah.
but
Or
but
they're on drugs.
right, or there's just something crazy going on or whatever. But yeah, I believe that ghosts exist. I just am very cautious about how accurate it is that there are ghosts all over the place all the time. I'm not really 100% sure, but I'm still researching, learning all the time too. So I'm
Yeah.
trying to find out for sure what the truth is.
Was there anything like that, like any one story that kind of stood out for you that kind of like gave you the willies that when you were like researching it or whatever? Like,
Right.
was there any?
The Seven Sisters Road was one of my favorite stories just before I started researching it. And then when I started researching it, I realized that there was actually, the story is that there's seven sisters living in a farm in around Nebraska City,
Uh-huh.
and the dad or the brother, here you get with your differences in stories,
Right.
took all seven daughters or sisters out into the country and hung all seven of them from seven trees on seven hills. So now the road's called Seven Sisters Road. And suppose if you drive down the road, your car will malfunction, and they see red light, like eyes. People will see like eyes in the dark, or they'll hear screaming or crying, things like that. And sometimes they'll see like a woman hanging from a tree or running through the country. Like,
Out.
yeah, like, so people see weird stuff. And when I was doing the research for it, I was like, I was trying to find, obviously, if there's seven people who died at the same time by the hands of one person, that would have been all over the papers. Even
Right.
even in the even in the time period that it supposedly happened between 1850s to 1900-ish. And I mean, there was nothing. I couldn't find anything. But there were people living there at the time. There were 7 daughters living in a house in that exact precinct that it's supposed to happen.
At that time period.
Right, on the property where it supposedly happened. So here's where you start mixing up stories with ghosts, right? But I was like, when I first read that there were 7 daughters in one house with a brother, there's a brother as well, I was like, oh
shit,
yeah, like this is it.
This could be real.
But I couldn't, I mean, but there's no truth behind 7 of them dying all at once. I'm sure 7 daughters have died out there, but none of them were hanged, or whatever. But there was a young girl who was murdered around the same time period by her father. And he was actually lynched before he went, before he went to trial, was convicted, and then he got out, or was trying to fight it, I guess, in the courts. Mm-hmm. And before he could get back in to try to fight it further, to try to get up to like the Supreme Court level, they lynched him. So he was they took him out of the jail in Nebraska City and took him out in front of the jail and hung him there. So
holy shit.
But he murdered his daughter, and they were all living around the same time period with the 7 sisters who were living in that area, and then the daughter who was murdered. So I feel like that's maybe where those stories kind of merged. And over time, people started talking, and there's a cemetery out there that, so the names probably sort of started getting kind of mixed up. But that's the fun part about ghost stories, is that they're great and they're fun, but then there's also where you're like, holy crap, there's actually 7 sisters in this family who lived here. This is nuts,
Right.
So,
like this something could have happened.
Right.
Like there are a bunch of, there's a story out here. We have a road. It's called Sweet Hollow Road. And I guess it kind of resembles like Sleepy Hollow, and people, I guess, think of that. And it's, we have the Amityville Horror House over here where actual stuff actually happened at the Amityville. Right. It's like a town or 2 away from me. But people have accounted that that the house was haunted, and that's where the movies came from. But this specific road, when I was younger, I mean, it's just fun. We used to drive down, especially now, this time of year, completely dark road, so narrow. One of those, the most narrow wooded roads you'll ever see. No lights. I don't know who made this road, but they didn't want people to survive down it because how, I don't understand. And then you drive down, and apparently there's a cemetery in there. And if you stop under the trestle and you honk 3 times or something like that, and you put your car in neutral, it's the news people came out and they leveled the ground, and they said that the ground is completely level, but if you put your car in neutral, the car will start to apparently the ghosts are trying to push you out. It's fun. It's just fun. Do you go?
Yeah, when you have so many great elements there. You have this spooky narrow road and this trestle, and then cemetery, and no lights. You have all these great things going on, and it's fun.
It has to be haunted. There's no other There's no other way around it. If you have a creepy old old house, it has to be haunted.
Right.
Were you always into from a kid ghost stories and stuff like that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that what I was, with the guy who came and spoke to us in 7th grade, his name was Dwayne Hutchinson, and he wrote ghost stories, books. I mean, I feel like before that, maybe not so much, but I think, I was about probably 12 years old, so I was starting to really listen, and I always really liked writing stories as a kid. And so I think, and then I was starting to get into becoming a teenager, and then, we're starting to tell each other these stories. And we had this really great house around here called Hobbitsville House, and it was this overrun, huge mansion, and it was it was a nice house, but everything around it was overgrown. It had this wrought iron fence, and kids would jump the fence all the time. And supposedly a little girl haunted the grounds because she drowned in the pool. And and it was called Hobbitsville because there was like a pond and like all these like formations of rocks, and hobbits supposedly live there. So there's like this weird science fiction-y type thing going on too. But and we would like, it'd be like, I never went in, but I more so because I just didn't want to go to jail. But like
right.
But it was spooky at night. You're just like walking around it, and it's just like so spooky. And
you get that. It's almost like, I don't know if it really is ghosts or not, but like you get that like, ooh, like that chill feel, that willies, just like what died here, like what's around here.
Right.
We have a house similar to that around here too. We used to call it the witch house, and it's the iron. It's in this really nice area, but the house itself alone looks like a bunch of witches live there, like
right.
And the story goes that there are a bunch of witches that live there, and like they'll cast a hex on you if you knock on the door, whatever it is. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So like, naturally, I never climbed the fences or anything. None of my friends did, but we would drive past and like just like, oh my god, they're in the window, like make shit up when you're a kid. You know what I mean?
Right.
So we have a bunch of shit like that. Do you do you find that like especially in the research for this book, did you find that a lot of the stories were actually true, or like that they could have been true, I guess, like as far as the ghost, like correlating the ghost story with the actual story, like
Right. I read a lot of ghost stories and listened to a lot of ghost stories before I chose the 10 that I chose for the book. So I did go through a lot where I couldn't find anything at all. So the ones I chose specifically for the book, they all have something in relation to them for the most part. There's maybe some that are a little bit kind of stretch, that it's a possibility, but the history is there, but it's really not like super solid all the time. But yeah, I feel like for most of the really, really big stories that I came across, there is something there that it started somewhere. Right. And sometimes it's just difficult with ghost stories because it could just be a really, really vague. Ghost stories are notoriously vague. But I mean, like it could just be, if it's just like the road that you're going down, and they just say, oh, there's a road and it's haunted, and there's not even really any specifics about maybe like, right, like what time period or who may be haunting it. I mean, if there's nothing there, then it's really hard to just find the truth, and it could have just been somebody sitting around one night telling stories, and that's just right, just or to scare their kids or whatever. But the stories that are in my book, for the most part, I found very solid, what I believe to be solid evidence to suggest that that's most likely where it started. Because, and a lot of times with ghost stories, something tragic happens, and then people keep talking about it. Well, then, with tragedy, they start feeling bad about it. And then after a while, it turns into like fear. So then people start being scared of it, or maybe someone hears something around that area and they're like, oh, people died here,
Yes.
And then that turns into a ghost story. So is it really haunted, or is it people are scared of it because people died there,
Right.
And they turned it into a ghost story? But I mean, that's what's fun about them too, is, you just never know. But having the history, I love, like having that be a part of it.
You took the thought, like that's literally what I was thinking, is knowing that something really did happen here. It kind of makes your brain go like, even if whether it's haunted or not, it's still eerie knowing that the reality of the situation is you're standing on a road where somebody was literally like shot to death. Like somebody's dead body was laying here bleeding to death where you're standing. Like that is eerie in and of itself, I feel. So I think it's cool that you took the history and kind of correlated it with the stories, because it makes them more real. It makes them, I don't know, freaks me. I'm a chicken shit though. My mother will tell you, like, I'm afraid of my own shadow sometimes, But
It's weird. I absolutely am super scared of haunted houses. Like I
yeah.
don't, in some horror movies, I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to watch this. But I love doing paranormal investigations. We'll be like in a building that like we went to the Velisca Axe murder house.
Oh, you actually went? You did
Yeah,
paranormal?
and
Get
stayed the night. And
Oh,
and there's like this horrible tragic thing that happened there, and it's so creepy, but like I'm not afraid of it for some reason, but like I'm always more afraid of like a real person being there than a ghost. So like that's what I'm like, is someone in this house with us? And that was a really small house, so it was easy to figure out if there's anybody in there or not. But I'm, in some of these locations, you're going to like asylums and things like that are just huge and abandoned and people are going in them. But yeah, Velisca was very eerie, and it's a very tragic story. And it's
what happened?
There is a Moore family, Velisca, Iowa. They were all sleeping. There was 4 children, the parents, and then they had 2 little girls staying the night in the bedroom down on the main level. And the parents were upstairs sleeping right at the top of the stairs, and then the kids were in the bedroom next to them. And in the middle of the night, someone came in and killed all of them with an axe. So
true story?
Like, yep. All 8 of them were murdered with an axe in the middle of the night, and they never found the person who did it. So like the house is just full of like this, just like, it's just sad, just this weird, scary energy, like just sad energy, and yeah, they were all, it happened in 1912, I believe. So a long time ago. So the possibility of figuring out who it is at this point is
right. They're dead.
Pretty slim. There was a lot of investigation. I mean, they tried really hard to figure it out who it was, but they just never unsolved. So that also adds elements to the ghost stories. But Velisca does overnight, they'll let you stay overnight. They'll let you do your paranormal investigations there. They want you to share your evidence. Lots of people have crazy experiences. We had a few weird things happen, but
did anything happen when you went?
Right away when I got there, we sat down. We got a tour of the house. It's really small. And I was sitting down like in the living room area, and I was looking towards the room where the 2 little girls, they were the Stillinger sisters, where they had been staying overnight. And I was looking, and the door was open, and I swear, and this is, I mean, in it, like I said earlier, skeptic. So
I was gonna just about to say that.
It could have been something else, but it was so weird. I looked and I was just staring at the doorway, and all of a sudden, like a black, like shadowy mass that like came about a third of the way out and went back. It didn't pass through the doorway. It was just like there and back. And I swear I sat there for like 20 minutes just staring at that doorway so that I could see if it did it again. And nothing, I didn't, and there's not a lot of traffic in Velisca, Iowa. It's a really little town. So it's not like there's like lots of people driving by or, things like that. But I just sat there and stared at the doorway to try to see if like anything else happened, and nothing else did. Damn. And it was weird. The other people in the who were with me, they felt things, like people touching them, things like that. I didn't feel anything, but we had some weird stuff happen. Then in the middle of the night, at probably like 3 o'clock in the morning, I could hear just like footsteps up above us.
Stop it.
Right. We were sleeping in the living room. All of us were sleeping in the living room, and and the house is so quiet. There's no electricity in the house, and there's no plumbing inside the house. So the house is eerily quiet all the time. It's spooky. Like, because there's not like air's not kicking on, like there's no buzzing of lights, like there's nothing like electrical, nothing. So it's just so quiet. So and it had been quiet all night, and we went to bed. It was probably like 3-4 in the morning, and all of a sudden we're just hearing like footsteps upstairs, back and forth. Like,
and nobody was upstairs.
No, we were all sleeping we were all in the living room laying down, and it was like right above us in the attic. So, and it was just weird. It was. Did anybody go
check? I would have not.
I was like trying to go back to sleep. And everyone, like other people are like waking me up. I'm like, oh my God, I don't want to hear this. I don't want to know. And then there's like tapping in the kitchen, like on the stove, just like a metallic noise, and it was super weird because it just hadn't done it all night, like it hadn't done it at all. So it's just I don't have an explanation for why it was happening, but there was no one else in the house with us. It was weird, and I don't know, just weird stuff. The story though is that they say that it's possible that the person that killed the family and the two girls was hiding out in the attic. So the idea that possibly someone was like hiding out there, waited until they all went to sleep, and then came out through the attic, because the stairs like lead directly up to the parents' bedroom, but they are so loud. And I read a lot of books, and I've read that the stairs were still really creaky and loud then. So you would have thought that they would have woken up like from the noise of someone coming up those stairs.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, unless they did hear them and then maybe just didn't think anything of it. They had a bunch of kids. Maybe they thought it was one of the little girls coming up the stairs from that had been staying over. Who knows? But yeah, it's a sad though, like what happened to them.
And that's like a true story. Like 8 people actually died.
Yep.
And two of you said two weren't even related. They were just staying the night.
Right. They had all gone to like a church service beforehand, and then I think the two little girls had just asked if they could stay or play with the kids and stay the night, and then the parents would just take them back in the morning or whatever. They probably didn't really live that far from each other, but they stayed overnight in the bedroom downstairs. And one of the girls, everyone else didn't. I mean, this is forensics from 1912, but everyone else supposedly didn't appear to have moved, except for one of the girls that was staying over. She looked like she might have woken up right beforehand, but it seems like everybody else had just been hit, and that was it. And he like whoever did it covered up all the windows and mirrors with like clothing and stuff, so like none of the mirrors you couldn't see. Like it was weird. And he cleaned up his hands in a bowl downstairs, left it bowl of water, and like had eaten like half a sandwich or something and left it on the table.
Oh, we got hungry.
Yeah, like murder and eating. So right. I don't know.
all this murder is making me really hungry.
Right. And he just left the axe in the house. So he just used their own axe, the Moore family axe, and left it in the bedroom with the girls downstairs, who he probably killed last. So
and now, okay, so now, do you pay to go into these houses, or do you guys? Okay, you pay.
Right. You can do like a tour, like a day tour, and I don't think it costs very much to do the day tour. And then you can talk to the guy who like does the tours, who's really, really cool, and he knows a lot about the history, and he knows a lot about things that have happened to other people in the house, and he's a really big part of the paranormal community. So like if you can probably sit and hang out with him for a little while, pay your fee to do the tour. It's not probably very long, but you could get to hang out with him and talk to him too, and see the house. And they actually renovated it so that it was back to what it originally looked like back then, because it had been like redone over the years and people had lived in it. And so they gutted it and then redid it and made it, because originally I think they were just going to do like a museum, and then they ended up realizing that there was like people who wanted to come investigate there to try to see if they could contact the dead. So that I feel like a lot of people want to see if they can contact them to see if they can figure out if they can get an answer to who murdered them. Right, so like that's the big thing. Like people want to go to try to see if they can find answers. But yeah, so you can do a day tour. They're open during the days, and then you can also do overnights, which are not necessarily cheap, but they're.
Did you go with anybody who like does the investigating? Like did you guys like bring, how they have those heat? I don't even know what the hell they're called, but like they detect like heat in certain, you know what I'm talking about? Like
right. Yeah, no, like a thermal camera, or just like a temperature gauge. Like we brought some equipment. We actually did it. I wouldn't have actually probably chosen Villisca because I think it's just a really sad story, and I just don't really know if I would have actually picked that like as a. I mean, it was a great experience. It was neat to like stay over, but I did it for my brother for his 30th birthday. He always wanted to go to Villisca. So I was like, I figured it out, tried to, like scrounge up some money so we could go do it. And and I brought my equipment. So it was like, kind of like,
you have equipment?
Yeah, like a little bit here. I have like Spirit Box K2, I really like recordings. I love doing like recordings and trying to get actual voices and things like that.
Does it happen?
I did not get anything that I could say was anything at Villisca. We did have some weird K2 hits in Villisca.
What does that mean? K2?
It's like a K2 meter. It detects electromagnetic fields. And what's interesting about Villisca is that there's no electricity in the house. So when things are starting to kind of go off, you're trying to figure out like what that actually is. And we felt like we were kind of having a conversation with one of the younger boys from the house, from the way the lights were like going off. But I mean, you still have to you still have to take it like with a grain of salt and try to just sort of figure it out. But it was a weird
skeptic in you.
Right. But it was weird. It was a weird experience because it did seem like we were getting answers in relation to specific questions and it was lighting up at specific points. So sometimes, you get things that you're like, wow, this is crazy. That was like a super weird experience. I thought that was really weird because I felt like we were actually maybe talking to one of the boys. And if we were, that's incredible.
That's ridiculous. I would have literally shit my pants at least 5 times during the night. But like when I'm not even joking. Like my friends want to go to a haunted house and vlog it. I'm like, no, I'll go through a drive-through. I'm not doing it. I'm just like I'm a vagina. I just can't. But when you say it seemed like you were having a conversation. What do you mean? Like you would ask questions and then it would light up at certain spots?
Right. Like the idea is that you're trying to get it, like you're trying to explain like, hey, we have this piece of equipment here. If there's anyone here that wants to contact us, all you should have to do, because I believe in energy. I believe that if spirits exist, that they have to have some sort of energy form to exist. So I believe more so maybe like in the transfer of energy and whatever that may mean. So the idea is that if you have some sort of energy, then you can light up these lights with this. So you try to explain that to the, empty room that you're in and you're like, hey, if you can try to touch this or try to interact with it in some way to make the lights light up. So then the idea is that if you can get an entity or, to try to communicate with you, then they're trying to touch it in response to your questions. So you could ask like, are you so-and-so? And if nothing's happening, and then you can keep going and then maybe, you get some lights and then you keep going with that, like you keep sort of building off of those questions. So the idea is to try to pinpoint maybe who you're talking to. But yeah, I think that those are like the most interesting for me, or things like that, where you're like actually feel like you're getting something out of the conversation, especially because we weren't getting any hits all night. Nothing, like absolutely nothing. And all of a sudden we're just like getting hits after asking specific questions. Right.
What were you asking?
I can't remember. I think we were asking a lot about like who it was at first. And I think that we had gotten to the point where we thought it was, I believe, Paul, who was, I don't think he was the youngest.
You guys
he might have been.
Oh shit.
Yeah. So then we started kind of, and then that was in the room we were standing in. Someone in the room was like, I feel like somebody's touching my legs. So like, and like, and if it was like a little boy in the room, if like touching legs, that would make sense, Right. And so, but we were in the parents' bedroom, but we were asking, questions about, if they knew what had happened, or if they knew who had done it, or if they knew who we were, things like that. Like just you're just trying to sort of feel out the situation and trying to see if you can get anything out of whatever may be there. So
they weren't, and it sounds to me like it was eerie in the sense that you knew 8 people had died. Right. And eerie in the sense that there was some sort of energy there, obviously, something. There's no electricity, and then this thing's lighting up. That's, like, fucking wild.
Right.
So, like, eerie in that sense, but obviously the whatever energy it wasn't like a poltergeist type of energy. It was more of just, like, lingering, I guess, if that makes sense.
Or if it was like if it was a ghost of some boy, you know, of some little boy who died in the house, then the idea is that we were able to actually communicate with him on some level. So because like I said, that thing, I had that thing on all night because I love it, because I love the idea of like the transfer of energy. I love that concept related to paranormal research.
Yeah.
So I had that thing on me all night, and I mean like that, it was not going off. I mean, like it would go off if it was getting close to equipment or like things like that would make it go off. So I knew it was working, but we sat it down on the bed. It's not, I always make sure that I'm like checking everything around it to make sure there's nothing just weird sitting
Right.
close by that's just going to make it go off
Right.
randomly,
The
which it
skeptic
should
in
be.
you want to rule out every other possible outcome, like,
Right.
possibility.
Right. And if you're sitting it on something that's going to make it go off, it's going to be consistently going off. So if it's sitting there on the bed, it hasn't been going off, all of a sudden you're getting lights to go off on it. Well, why is that? We're all standing in the same spots. We're not touching it, So yeah, it's kind of crazy, but it's really neat to think that maybe we spoke to him,
That's fucking,
because,
that's beyond, that's
right.
crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So,
and now this is, you said the spirit box?
that's the K2 meter.
K2 meter. Okay.
Right.
What
Spirit
is
box is the one where it goes through radio frequencies at a high rate of speed, and the idea is that like a ghost could pick up, the voices on the radio and use the voices to speak. That's what the idea of a ghost box is.
Oh, they can like manipulate the frequencies.
Right.
That's pretty
Right.
dope too.
Because you're like getting white noise. Like I like to run it where it's like legit, like almost white noise, and you might be randomly getting in like a word here and there, unless and if it's like that, like that going like crazy like that for a while, and then all of a sudden you're getting full sentences. Then I'm like, oh, okay, maybe something's going on here.
You've gotten full sentences?
Oh yeah, sometimes like you'll just get some random like, and sometimes I'm like, I don't know if it's like, occasionally you'll get. When you ask questions, you're supposed to ask questions because that's what you're trying to get them to answer your questions. So if you're asking questions and you're getting like actual answers to things that you asked and it's in full sentences, it's like kind of hard sometimes to be like, I don't know if that's not
Right.
a real thing or not,
Has that happened to you?
Every now and then, not very often. It doesn't happen a lot.
That's still fucking wild. that it's happened. Do you like that it's happened at all? It's just wild.
Right.
What about like Ouija boards and stuff?
I feel like people have very strong opinions about Ouija boards, and I don't really believe in Ouija boards, I guess. And people will probably tell me that, and people probably have had crazy experiences, and maybe that's why, but I've never, I messed with spirit boards and Ouija boards when I was a kid like crazy, and nothing ever happened to me. So, maybe I just haven't had a weird experience, and maybe if I did, I would shut my mouth. But I don't know, like people say, do not use them, so, and I've never used one in the sense of like actually trying to contact spirits, so maybe that's why nothing's ever happened to me.
Right.
But more so like messing with my friends, like, hey. But I haven't used one since I was probably like 15, so it's been a long time.
It's been so long for me too. Like we used to have, our friends. We had some weird ass friends. They wanted to do like, that game, light as a feather, stiff as a board.
Right. Yeah.
We tried to do that. That shit didn't work. We tried to do a seance. That shit didn't. Well, you know how kids get. They're, I heard something. Oh, did you hear? Like, like everybody hears something. You know what I mean? But I feel like when you're. Okay, obviously you have all the stuff. That one, you haven't just gone once. You go. You do the paranormal stuff.
Right.
Like often?
It's been very slow since all this, quarantine stuff's been going on. But yeah, I guess not a lot, but I try to get out as much as I can. I'm actually going to Iowa in a couple of weeks, to go to an asylum. So, and I've never been to an asylum before. I can't even think what the name is called right now. I got invited by a friend of mine who is a paranormal investigator, and then a group from Minnesota, actually, that we're all just going to meet. And they were like, "Hey, you should totally come. Like, just come along with us." I'm like, "All right." I mean, I don't know if I'll make it back, but why not, right? But yeah, so I mean, I'm always like interested in going. It also has to do with some of these places charge a lot of money to stay overnight in them, and so it's like, I mean, how much can you spend in a year to be staying overnight, in haunted locations?
Right.
And Nebraska is like very anti-ghost. It's weird. It's a
Is
very,
it very religious?
I don't know if that's maybe what it is. I know that there are some places that I've really wanted to investigate, and they've like said, please do not even ghost guy, don't even say anything about our place. So, like, don't even bring it up at all, because they don't want anyone to know that other people are talking about it, or that it has the stigma of being haunted. So, but yeah, Nebraska is like very much like, I don't know, like anti, but like Iowa is huge. Like there's so many places in Iowa and Kansas, which is, close to Nebraska. So like, there's so many places in Iowa and so many places in Kansas that we can go and stay overnight, and people, that's their business. They let people stay there. And so, and they want you to tell people it's haunted.
Like tell all your friends.
Right. But there's not a single place in Nebraska that you can do an overnight. Like that you could pay to do an overnight and stay and try to do paranormal. Yeah, it's there's not one in Nebraska at all. So
see, okay, so I don't know how you do it. Well, that's really the end of the sentence, because I don't know how you fucking do it without, like, I'm just talking about it freaks me the fuck. Like, seriously, I'm gonna, after we get off this call, I'm probably gonna go like to the bathroom to go pee or something, like checking corners, like that's like, it just
make sure the curtain's open.
Right, well, yeah, I'm gonna check behind the curtain to make sure there's nobody with an axe, like, or a ghost, whatever. And like, all right, let me tell you this. I have a ring light in my room. There's a spare room in a hall, like, my hallway gets dark, and the room's to my right, and if you walk down the hallway, my bathroom's straight away, and you have to pass this empty dark room, and the ring light scares the shit out of me, because I think, that's how much of a chicken shit that I am. So like, how the fuck do you do this shit, and like, you can sleep through all of this? Like, you were saying in the house, you were just like, don't leave me alone, I want to go to sleep. Like, this shit doesn't faze you?
I mean, it freaks me out more so that like my best friend shot up and looked at me and was like, did you hear that? And that scared the shit out of me. But but I just wanted to go back to sleep, because if I was asleep, I wasn't listening to it, So I'm not saying that it didn't freak me out, because it did. It freaked me out because the house had been so quiet all night. And then my friend is acting like all freaked out, which freaked me out even more.
Right.
But like, I guess I'm just so interested in the truth about it that like, I just really want, and it's not even that I care to like try to convince someone else of what I did or what happened to me. It's just that I want to experience it myself, and I want to know whether or not I think it's true based off of my own experiences. So like, I don't know, but then like the history is the biggest part for me, I think. So like, I haven't done any research on this place that we're going to in a couple weeks, but I will probably right beforehand so that I can get kind of a general idea. And I don't like to go in blind. I like to know, some people like to go in completely blind, but and I might not actually look at the ghost stories per se, but I will look up the history of the location, because I think sharing these paranormal places in existence, letting people stay overnight, I think it's the importance of sharing the history that occurred there more so than like the ghost part, because you're going to get the ghost part because people are going to go for that. Right.
Right.
But I'm so interested in like the architecture and what happened there and the history and what the influence people had on that place, things like that. So, and I think that sharing ghost stories is sharing history to a location. So I think that that's what's really important to me. So I feel like if I could talk to somebody who was around 150 years ago, that would be so awesome, you know, like if that's possible, why not try it?
Right.
But like I said, I'm scared of people. I'm scared someone's going to murder me and I'm going to be in a room by myself and someone's going to come in and murder me, more so than I'm, you know, I might have been more afraid that someone's going to come in with an axe in the middle of the night, you know,
and
than some ghost.
Right. Well, that's it. My grandmother, because again, I'm going to reiterate, I am a chicken shit. Like, there's no two way. I'm terrified of all of that shit. And my grandmother, my uncle passed away when I was younger. It was the first person that ever passed away in my life. You know, I was like 12. I'd never experienced death before. And he was my godfather, and I knew him, and it was very weird. And I remember saying to my grandmother that I was like afraid of his ghost, like haunting. And, you know, like I was afraid to go to sleep because I was afraid that I was going to wake up and see his ghost. And my grandmother said the same thing. She's like, don't fear the dead, fear the living. Like, what are you doing? You know, like, so I totally get that you're afraid that somebody's going to know the story of the house and be like, oh, bet I'm going to recreate this right now. Yeah, I get it. Totally.
Or, you know, a lot of places that are haunted have been abandoned for a long time. So sometimes you get people in there that you don't know are going to be in there, and you know, and that's more frightening to me that I'm going to walk around the corner and there's going to be a person standing there I don't know is going to be there than anything else. Not that they're going to necessarily kill me, but just that they're standing there and I'm just like, oh, you know. Right. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not going to say that I'm not like the bravest person sitting alone in a room in the dark. I'm not going to say that I'm not like freaked out a little bit, but I really want to know. I want to know the truth. So I think it's more so just like me trying to push through that.
Yeah, it sounds, for me, it's like, you know what, I'll read it on Google and take everybody's word for it. For you, it sounds like your craving for the truth and the knowledge kind of trumps the fear of like a ghost or even fucking some random homeless person, let's say, that took up shop at the asylum.
Right.
You know, I don't know have you ever stayed at an asylum before?
No, this is my first one. I'm super excited, actually. Like, I am so excited to go. I was like honored that they asked me, because I was like, oh, I would kill to do this. Because sometimes it's like hard to get enough people together, because I'm not actually part of like a paranormal group of any kind, but I could probably go along with, you know, I've been on other investigations with other people and other groups. So, you know, I can tag along sometimes, but but I don't actually have like a group of people that, you know, I can just be like, hey, let's go this weekend. And we have enough people to I mean, sometimes you're paying like $400 or $500 to stay the night somewhere.
One night?
You gotta have like 5-6 people to fill that up to make it worth it in the drive, you know? So it just depends on where you're going, but the more people you have, usually, then the less money you have to spend. So we try to get as many people as we can. So if I can get on with someone else to do it, I'm going, because I just want to go,
right.
and, you know, and I want to learn something else. And
I gotta say, you're a really cool dude, and like I could see us actually being friends if ever we became friends. And you don't ever invite me. It's gonna be a no from me, dog. I'll watch your.
There's probably some great places in New York I'd like to check out.
I'm telling you, we have an asylum out here. I don't know if you get to stay out there. Like, you might have to break some trespassing laws and like go out on your own and do it. But that's what we used to do. But there's definitely, I'm going to find some and I'm going to email you some, like on Long Island. Because I know there definitely are places out here that would be dope.
I mean, and you know, a lot of the times, like, people joke or talk crap about the fact that most modern places aren't haunted, that your ghosts are from the 1700s or 1800s. They're not from 1980. So, right. You know, they're not like from 30 years ago or 20 or 5 years ago, you know? So, I mean, when you're talking about history, Nebraska has a very short history in comparison to like the East Coast that has just an extensively long, incredible history. So, just, in America all the way,
Right.
But so, in Nebraska, you're getting like within like maybe the last, 160, 175 years, that's where like the history lies. But you're talking like, way, way before that on the East Coast. So the history alone is just insane on the East Coast. And so it's like, you're trying to, I don't know. It's just a totally different dynamic than what we have here.
Yeah, no, and I know for this, I should have looked this up before getting on here so I could tell you. I'm going to email you. I'm going to find a place. But like, especially Long Island, out east where like the vineyards are and stuff like that, there are older establishments that have stories behind. I know for a fact, I've heard of them. But like, yeah, New York, and I mean, even in the city, in Manhattan and stuff like that, there's got to be something out there.
Right.
Where you could stay the night, and again, we could go out for a drink after.
Well, I'm not going out there unless I'm getting some ghosts in my life. So I'm just kidding.
I do it for the ghosts. I don't know. I genuinely like. It's. I'm telling you, it freaks me the fuck out. Like, I'll be scrolling through TikTok, and like it's a 15-second video of like freaky ghost stories. I'm like, nope. If it's after a certain time, I'm like, nope. I won't sleep tonight. Like, I get freaked the fuck out. It freaks me the fuck out.
No, I don't know. I don't know why it just doesn't like. But I also like. I don't feel very much. Like, some people are just very in tune to like feeling the presence of ghosts, let's say, like or that they feel energies and things like that. Right. But I, for some reason, am like encased in stone and don't really feel much. So like, I feel like most of my like freak out moments are like when I'm in the dark and my brain is trying to like form things to make logical sense in the dark. Yeah. So it's like, well, what is that? What's that standing over there? Well, it's probably just like, something in the corner that like a stack of chairs. But like my brain's telling me like, what is that? But that's like where my scary stuff comes from, like just from being like in the dark and like trying to perceive what's happening. But other people, like they feel things, like they feel emotions or touching or like things like empathic, that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And some people are just way more in tune to that. So it's like, and I just don't. So I feel like maybe if you have like just a little bit more sense of like what's happening around you, like spiritually, like with energies and things like that, like I can understand how you would be much more freaked out than me, who I'm like, I don't know what you're even talking about. Like,
right. I could catch a vibe. I mean, mainly from living people, but like I catch the vibe very quickly. Like your vibe is very laid back and very like, I can catch people's vibes very quickly. And so, yeah, when I'm in, I don't go to cemeteries. They freak me like, I just get the willies. I get like, maybe that's what it is. I'm just more sensitive to the energy of it, because I believe the same thing. Like the same exact thing that you said is like, energy. Everything is energy. So it's some sort of transfer of energy that happens when we die. And so energy can't be created or destroyed. It's always there. So there obviously has to be something to that. And I definitely feel some shit. I feel some weird shit sometimes. Yeah. Even in my house, like I feel some weird shit. So so when you say you don't get like the chills or any, like the fucking willies up and down your spine?
I mean, like, I don't know, like, I can feel like if something gets colder and like, or something like that, but like, I just don't, like, people say that they just like, yeah, like they feel that something is like around them or like watching them or they can, or touching them or whatever it might be, or that, or they, like sometimes, like I've had friends that, we went to, it's called John Brown's Cave Mayhew Cabin in Nebraska City, and it's reported to be haunted, and there's like a cave underneath the cabin. And a friend of mine we went and did a paranormal investigation there, and then we were just kind of like on the property, and we were down in the cave, and she just felt like so nauseous and just like almost like that something bad was happening, like something like really negative all of a sudden, just like felt that. I never feel that way, like I just, you know what I mean, like I don't feel different based off of like where I am. I'm just like, the environment is either, I mean, I can feel like the temperature, and like, I can obviously see visually like whether or not I'm maybe perceiving that something is weird or whatever based off of what's around me and my surroundings. But like I literally never have felt like dizzy or nauseous or felt like something evil or felt even something happy, like, so, which happens too. Some people will say that they just feel like something really happy happened
Like
here,
love.
and that energy is still here. Right. So like, I mean, just because ghosts exist doesn't mean that they're bad or negative in any way. So maybe they feel something good or smell something good or something like that. So, I mean, it could be anything, but I just literally never feel, I mean, other than like normal, like me, like fight or flight sort of like scenarios where it's like, do I feel threatened by this situation? Should I leave? That's just like my, like human reaction to things in daylight. So I, just like whatever that is, like, is this going to kill me? Should I go? But I mean, so maybe that, but other than that, I don't feel anything. I'm not right. I guess I'm just not a psychic whatsoever. So I have no psychic abilities.
I mean, okay. So I do feel as though like a lot of it can sometimes be in our minds, but then there are those like when I'm around people, I can sense if there's a lot of people. It's like overwhelming for me, where like same thing, like your friend, like I'll get dizzy and nauseous and have to leave. And it's happened to me my entire life, but I never put it together that it always happens when there's like crowds of people and you can feel that. You sound like more like you're going with your five senses, your faculties. Can I see it? Can I taste it? Can I touch it? Is it touching me?
Right.
Like, that type of shit.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I've definitely felt the temperature changes, even in this room, this very small room. I felt like just sitting on my bed, all of a sudden, just this rush of cold, like this cold,
Right.
I don't know what the fuck it is, but
right. Well, and that's why I say, like, I'm a skeptic, but I believe what other people tell me. Like, I totally believe that happens to other people. Just because I say, like, I don't know about ghosts 100%. I'm not 100%. I'm not going to say, yes, 1,000 million %. There's, ghosts all over the place. But it's just because my sensory ability to, like, what's happening energy wise is much different than like you or other people that I've spoken to. And I believe what you're telling me. I don't think that what you're telling me is a lie. I think that that's happened to you. I think it's happening to you, and you know what I mean? So, but that's what I want to know these things, because I literally just don't feel that stuff. I'm like, come on, let me be one. I want to be one. I want to feel it too. I want to know what's going on, but
I want to get nauseous. Like, what the fuck?
Yeah, I want to throw up on the floor.
Can the ghost just penetrate me, for fuck's sake? Like, what the fuck?
Well, and people give, and human beings give off energy, and I've had a partner who she could see colors, around,
like the auras,
right? And I would tell me like what color like she could just, like, things like that, and so people, and she was very like in tune to like feeling things, when we would go on investigations, things like that. So, and she had some weird stuff with like dowsing rods. Have you ever seen those? No. They're like copper rods that are like, you like hold them out in front of you, and they're just like L-shaped, and you hold them in your hands and you can ask like yes or no questions. They actually used to use them to try to find water, because when you would get close to water, like the rods would cross.
Stop.
So like, yeah. So, but people use them now to try to contact spirits. So, but she would have like the weirdest. I would stand there, and those things just would not move. and then she just would have like the weirdest, like where they would just like move around, and she could like feel something like on her side, and then all of a sudden they'd start like moving towards like that direction, and just have weird things like that happen to her. And like, I mean, like they would cross for me sometimes for like questions, but I think they were like, we don't like you. You can't see, you can't tell we're here. So we're going to go over here. But, you know, and so that stuff just happens to people sometimes. But you should check them out. They're just like, I mean, they're really simple. They're dowsing rods. Like they're just like, they're like copper rods that you can, I mean, you can make them. You can just literally get like copper and turn it into an L and just put it in, you know, your hands, or people put like little plastic casings on the end so that they will move inside your hands a little bit easier sometimes. But
that's wild that there's all of this equipment to like contacting ghosts.
Right.
I never, like, even the spirit box. I'm so intrigued by this spirit box thing.
Yeah.
Like, and I think I've heard of it too, but again, like, if I came across it on YouTube, I quickly clicked off if I was alone, you know?
I mean, it's spirit box is essentially, you're trying to create white noise. So you're using like the radio to create white noise. But I mean, I don't take much out of it if someone's not running it at a very high frequency. I just feel like you're just picking up lots of voices from lots of, and I mean, you could be in the middle of town and there could be 50 radio stations that you could be running through at once, and you're just catching all those voices, you know? So, I mean, I like to run it on the AM station at the highest frequency possible, because that means you're going to get the least amount of interference, and you're going to, you know, if it is energy, they're really going to have to try to pick up those words for you. So, you know, I mean, but it's neat sometimes when you can get, it's kind of spooky, you know, when you're just
very
like,
spooky.
I mean, we've had stuff where we try to turn like flashlights on, you know, and just in response to questions, things like that. I mean, there's lots of different things that you can do, but I really, really like anything that has to do with, you know, like electromagnetic field type things because of energy. And I really like recordings. I just love recordings. And if I can,
that's like tangible. You can hear that.
Right. And if it's just like hi, I'm not gonna, you know, and if it's just like I'm not, that's not a word to me. But I've had I did record something. We were actually at that cabin in that cave, and we were inside the cabin actually, and it sounds like it says like not one of us. And it's like a full sentence, and it's like not one of us. And it's like a full sentence. Then that's the kind of stuff that like I'm like, that I will share that with people, because I feel like I can't tell you why that happened.
What the fuck does that mean?
I know.
Not one of us. Did you ask? Like, okay,
I can't remember what I asked before. Or I think it might have just been there was just no talking at the time. Sometimes I'll just let it kind of sit and ask questions, and then just kind of let it sit when everything is just really quiet, you know, to see if I can just pick up anything around. But it was a weird one. So
does that like when you hear the recordings back, does that do you ever get like, does that freak you out?
I was so excited when I got that one. I was like, yes. And I mean, yeah, it's kind of freaky, like when you're like listening to it over and over again, but I got excited because I was like, I mean, you're listening to like sometimes hours worth of stuff and there's just nothing on them, or other people are getting in the middle of things and you can't hear for sure. And then I won't ever, you know, say that I think that that's anything. So, you know, when I can get something where I know no one's talking and I get like a solid, you know, like, especially if you're getting more than one word or two words, like even two words, sometimes I'm like, I don't know. And it was like clear to me, like what it was saying, like, which was, yeah.
Stop. I got the chills when you said it. That's fucking freak. Nope. I feel like, okay, so I feel like somebody like you is kind of almost protected in a way for some, like, I don't know. I just feel like you're just a protected person. Like when you go out into the spirit world and you're like trying to do like, you know, trying to make contact, that somehow, some way for some reason you're protected. Like, do you feel that way? When I'm, and I'm not like even trying to read you or anything like that, but it just feels like you're protected in some way.
I mean, it's a good, I don't know. I mean, I would, from like you saying that, like hopefully what that means, if if that's what's happening, is that I am not influenced by anything around me. So
Yes.
whatever I give you is 100% what I think is like, the truth, because
Right.
I either can't figure out a way to just like to make it so that I figured out that it's something else,
Right.
where I'm, debunking it in some way where I'm like, oh no, it was this, or this has been banging all night, that ain't, we can't say that that's anything, like whatever it may be. So maybe that's what it is, that I just have no outside influence other than my own, like being just very skeptical and trying to be like, this is it. This is the
Yeah.
truth. I'm going to share this with you. And that's, I mean, we could spend hours in a place and we could get nothing. And I'm not going to say that something happened if nothing happened, so
Right.
it's like,
Right.
I'm like, I don't know, if it's haunted or not.
Well,
So
I feel like when it comes to energy, because I'm really big on like energy too, and
right.
like, okay, well, let me ask you this. When you're around, obviously, living people, can you read vibes? Can you feel vibes from other people?
I mean, I feel like I can read people really well, but I don't really necessarily know if it's like from energy. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I do have some abilities.
Right, right.
No, I mean, but I'm also just like I feel like I'm a cautious person when I come upon people, I suppose. Like I'm not, I'm a shyer person, but I also just like I'm not afraid to talk to people. But
Right,
like
right.
I maybe I'm just more cautious when I come in, so like I kind of try to feel people out a little bit more before I'm like, hey, here's my whole life,
Right.
so
Right.
come on over, like
Come on in.
bring all your axes and stuff. I no, I don't know. I just kind of more an observer than
Yeah.
anything. So I just maybe just pay attention a little bit more. But I've been wrong too. So I don't know.
I mean, we're human. It happens.
Right.
Like, but okay, so like you have a very, to me, you know, um, like a very like comfortable energy. Like I'm very comfortable talking to you. I'm
Yeah.
comfortable talking to most people. Like I could probably talk to the tree outside and make really good conversation. Like that's who I am. But like you, I have a very like I I I don't know. It's like a very inviting, comfortable, and like has anybody ever told you that before?
Oh, I don't. Maybe I don't
No, no.
know.
It's very I don't know. Are you a laid back person?
Yeah, I'm pretty laid back for the
Okay,
most part. I
that's
mean,
probably what it
everybody's
is.
got their anxieties, but I just, I mean, but I also just really like talking about ghosts. So, I mean, like, I can talk about ghosts all day. Maybe if you were grilling me about my past or something, I might not be so comfortable.
You
But
tell me to fuck off. Totally understandable. Totally. I mean, what's okay? Do you have a okay? So you've been in caves.
right.
You've stayed in houses. You're staying in an asylum.
Yeah.
Um, do you have a favorite spot that you've stayed?
Uh, no. I mean, I liked staying at Velisca. I thought that it was super interesting. And I ended up like reading all this stuff, like all these books afterwards, and like just really getting into like the theories behind everything. And so I feel like there's a lot of history there, and just the unsolved murder aspect of it, just like the true crime stuff. And
Yeah.
and I actually read a book by a woman who lives in Nebraska who had this really great theory about who she thought it was who killed them. So, and it was based off of paranormal research. She
Oh,
did a paranormal investigation and got an answer based off of a question she asked at a paranormal investigation in a totally different location. And she used the evidence that she got from that investigation and then came up with the totally new theory about who she thought actually killed those people in the house.
is it like
So
corroborated at all, or like
she has some pretty
solid?
solid evidence. Yeah. I mean, I'm not saying that I necessarily think that that's 100% true, but I feel like she has like
The
she has a
most.
really good she did really great research, and she really got into it. And the person that she thinks did it, I mean, could have had some relation to them in some way, or could have been involved in their lives, or knew about them, or so I mean, like, what she did, she it was great. But what I loved about it was that not necessarily that she's necessarily right, but that she used a paranormal investigation to try to uncover the truth about something else.
Yeah.
So and to actually utilize investigating to try to solve something that has never been solved. So it was just it was neat, like, just so it led me to other things that I had never even heard about before, going to Villisca. So, but yeah, I loved Mayhew Cabin as well. I really like that spot. But see, like, I always go back to the history. I love the history. Like,
I was gonna say, it sounds like your shtick. My favorite word, by the way, is shtick. It's just a great word. It sounds like your shtick. I mean, obviously, aside from the ghost stories and stuff like that, is the history behind it. Why? Is it just because of the reality, like that something actually happened that kind of makes it more real for you? Is that what it is?
Right. And I think it's like, I think a lot of people really like true crime, which is, when you think about it, is freaking weird.
Right.
The people are so into, like, people getting murdered, but it's like, but I feel like I have like this draw towards, like, but I feel like a lot of the, like the historical society here, they're always trying to find more money to stay alive. And I feel like especially in Nebraska, I feel like they tear down a lot of buildings that have been here for over 100 years, and it's easier just to get rid of them than to try to keep them. Well,
right.
When they're gone forever. I mean, they're just gone. They're never going to be there again if you get rid of them and replace them with some building that looks like the building right next to it,
Right.
And so I feel like maybe by trying to find a way to get younger people to learn about the history of, especially like Lincoln or Nebraska, maybe it will help to preserve that history. Because I feel like history is boring to most people. I think it's super boring. But if it's about ghosts and people getting murdered, then they're much more likely to read about it. But what they're not knowing is that as they're reading, like my book, let's say, they're also learning about the history of the town without even knowing it. So, like, I'm talking about, like, who was building things there and who started it and why, and and they're getting all that information, but they're not really maybe realizing it because they're reading about
there's
murder.
A cool murder mystery
right
behind it.
Right. But you're also, and lots of teenagers love my book, and they don't know it, but they're learning about Lincoln, and they're learning about other small towns in Nebraska.
Right. I started reading it and I'm like, oh shit, this is pretty, like, creepy. Like, right. But it's cool because it's like, like, for instance, when I'm driving and people think I'm fucking stupid, like crazy, like my friends think I'm a wackadoo, but when I'm driving, do you ever do this? Especially you as like somebody who loves history. When you're driving, you wonder what the roads looked like before the roads were there. Like, what did this piece of road look like in the 1700s? What was here? Like, do you ever do that?
Right. Yeah. I mean, like, I'm not so much like that, but I think about it a lot when, like I'll see, like, older photographs. Like, I'll be doing research on something and I'll see, like, a photograph of, like, a road I've driven down in, like, downtown or something. Yeah. And it's just like mud or dirt and there's horses all over on both sides. And it's like, it's just crazy to think, like, that there were horses all over the place, and they were just, people were walking through here, and there was no cars at one point,
Right.
Yeah, it's interesting, like, how many people have, like, stepped here and been here, and
yes.
And
like, in certain, it's just, it's great. That's what I think about, and I think that the history kind of gives you something solid where you can know, like, about that what is it, 28th Street? What's that the story?
The 20th in Washington.
20th in Washington. Like, you can know when you're on that street corner that something legit happened there. That's fucking dope to me. Somebody got killed here.
not for the guy that got murdered, but
right. Yeah, it wasn't a fun night for him.
Yeah, that night
his best
sucked.
night. That night sucked. Not going making the top 10 nights for him. But
shittiest night of his life, probably.
right. Right. I would say, yeah, probably the worst night. Yeah. That's what it is. It's like to know that something fucking happened there. It's just it's creepy.
Well, yeah. Well, in the house that the guy from that story, Adrian Barstow, the house is still there. His home is still there. People live in it. I know the people that live in it. And supposedly his from when he was growing up as a kid, it's a huge house. They had a lot of money, that Barstows. And in one of the bedrooms is marks on the panels around the doorway or in a closet or something that were showing him growing up, where his, and it would say
how tall?
and it says Adrian next to it, on each one. Him and his, I think he had one sister for sure. I can't remember for sure if he had other siblings, but I know he had one sister. So it'd be like them when they were growing up, they were keeping track of their height, and that's still in the house. And that's him. He lived there, and so and now maybe he's this ghost, but his story, I'm trying to tell the story. I'm trying to tell people who he was and, why, and, everybody has their story. So, his sucked at the end, but I mean, his family was really important to, helping Lincoln become what it is now. And, his name is important. And, so it's like, you're really getting into he was murdered and it was never solved, which is a great, story and interesting to read about. But he could be standing there and being like, hey, I knew that dude that shot me in my driveway. Someone please let me, can someone listen?
Right.
You never know.
Somebody hear me out here, sir?
Right.
You, sir.
Excuse me.
No, it's the truth. And I feel like the stories kind of give it life, the history gives the story life, really, because it's like, even that is fucking eerie to me. That's still there. The writing is still there. Why, to me, it's like, why wouldn't that be covered up? But does the family still live there?
Not the Barstows. The Barstows no longer live there. But the Barstows, I believe, lived in the house. I think his sister lived into the 90s or something like that. And I think she lived in the house until she passed away. So I think that she took it over after her parents probably died. And then she, I believe, lived in the same house for a long time. And then once she died, I don't really know if there were maybe no more Barstows that it could be passed on to, or no one wanted the house or didn't live in Lincoln. Lots of people leave and go other places. But it could have just been in the family forever. So she just left it on there. And then the people that own it now just never, it's part of,
never changed it.
Yeah, it's part of the history of the house. And I think that they knew the ghost stories when they moved in, and so they left it. And
it's a party, what do they call it? Party favor? Party trick? You can have a party and be like, you want to go see where he grew.
Right.
I would do that, That's pretty dope. Have you ever heard of the Amityville Horror House?
Yeah, I have.
You have? Okay. See, that would be dope too. Well, you can't really go in because I think somebody lives there.
I think it's for sale again, actually.
Get the fuck out. He knows this.
Sometimes I see it pops up all the time where that house is always for sale all the time.
Yeah.
It goes for a ridiculous amount of money. And people keep buying it, and it's not even that. I would not spend that kind of money on
No.
a house that looks like that.
No. No, it's not. I mean, it's no. I mean, it's right by the water, which is great.
Oh, okay.
But I guess, which is fine. And I mean, like, literally, you could get a shack especially on Long Island, you could get a shack for like $500,000 and then a mansion somewhere else. You know, that's just fucking New York. But I feel like the house itself is so famous that it's like almost like the house is like almost an attraction, but it's an ugly house, no doubt. It's disgusting.
Yeah, it's an ugly house.
There's nothing. I mean, like, I hope the ghost that used to live there doesn't hear me and like come for me. But like, homeboy, you lived in an ugly house, you know. And like this, do you know the story behind the Amityville Horror House?
I do know, like, probably the top level of it. I've never done any actual like research into it. I know a little bit about like the Warrens going in and investigating and things like that, and maybe that some of the story wasn't actually true, or I mean, I've heard some things too, but yeah, I know, like, I mean, I watched some movies, so I know all about that. But.
Right. I mean, apparently when new people before, okay, so the legend has it that when right after whatever happened, the guy killed or tried to kill the family, whatever it was, after he went crazy, a new family moved in, and then not too long after, that father went crazy because apparently there was like a poltergeist that was like possessing people. And then it wasn't until that family moved out that they renovated, and like the house is supposed to have like two eyes on it. That's like how you know that it's the house. It looks like it's in the front. It looks like there's two eyes staring at you. It's kind of creepy. And apparently they changed it so now that the windows or something like that. I mean, this is probably all bullshit. I have no idea. But apparently they changed it so that the eyes aren't there, and now it's not haunted anymore. That's like the story. Right. That's literally
because the eyes aren't there. Right.
The eyes aren't there anymore. So they like now it's livable apparently now.
I mean, I wonder if for some reason they can't, like, I wonder if there's like some legal thing that says that people can't like do overnights there or promote it as like this haunted attraction because of the neighborhood. I mean, is it a nice like neighborhood?
Yeah, it's like very hoity-toity. Like,
yeah, I bet that the neighbors would probably be like, no,
not
happening. So yeah.
They get pissed. Like this time of year, there are so many people that live on the island that like I almost want to tomorrow literally take my car and drive past. Like it's literally 5 minutes away. So there are so many people this time of year that at night will just drive past the house, like up and down. And the neighbors get pissed at that. They're like, can you guys all go fucking home and do something with your lives? Because people just want to see the damn house, you know?
They're like, where's the house? I don't see the eyeballs.
Right. Where are the eyes? You know? I'm telling you, like, people make shit. I don't even know if that's a true story. I just heard it somewhere. They're like, yeah, no, it's not haunted anymore because they got rid of the eyes. I'm like, okay, it's a fucking house. I mean,
you know, sounds like something that could happen.
I guess. I don't know. I don't fucking know. I have no idea. It's crazy. I genuinely don't know how you do it. I really don't. I'm going to have to talk to you, though, after you go to this asylum. I'm going to need to hear. We might have to do a follow-up episode because I'm going to need to hear what the fuck happens.
All right. Yeah. I'm going with two teams that like are just going to, I trust that they're going to really go in with an open mind. And I've heard that one of the groups has been there before and they just said it's just a lot of activity there actually. So, and it's a big place. So we're probably going to be able to spread out, hit a lot of spots in it. So I'm really excited because.
So you're expecting a lot of.
I'm not expecting anything.
Got you. You're hopeful. Are you hopeful?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. I would love to have a ghost come up to me and just say hello. Right.
And just be like, hey, all right, bye.
Right. Be like, okay, I got my answer. I'm gonna go now. I'm done. Good luck, everyone.
Okay, so when it comes to like your belief though, would
Right.
you, and I ask people this is just a me thing. Scale from 1 to 10 your belief in ghosts.
Oh God, I don't know. That's hard. It's hard because I believe in ghosts. I just don't have a lot of like personal evidence myself to
Got it.
say that like I don't know. I just like a lot of people, like some people are just, they have a million stories and they've seen a million ghosts, and then some
Right.
people have never had any experiences, and so I've had a handful of weird things happen to me that I just cannot explain, and I believe in ghosts. I just personally, so probably like, I don't know, somewhere between like a 6 and a 7, I guess.
Okay.
But I want to be at a 10. I want to be at a 10. I want to come back and say I have finally found the truth.
You want to be Lord of the Underworld?
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I feel like I'm right there with you, like a 6, 7. Like I feel like, yeah, like it's probably the truth. Weird shit has happened to me. I'm in your camp where like nothing weird enough has happened that
Right.
like a ghost is like, I've been down, watch tonight, it's gonna happen. Fuck. But like that, like I'm walking down my hallway or something and all of a sudden I see a figure. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's like clear as day. That's a fucking ghost.
Right.
You
Right.
know?
And that would be the 10. That's what I'm saying.
Right.
That would be the 10.
Yeah. That would be my 10. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like, do you believe that if you ask, they'll come? Like, if you say, like, I've always been told, I had one of my, I don't know if you believe in psychics or mediums or anything like that, but I had a girlfriend, my first girlfriend. Her mother was a psychic. She considered herself a psychic. And she said, if you tell the ghosts or the spirits to go away, they'll go away. If you tell them, I'm closed off, I don't want anything to do with you right now, we're done, they won't bother you. But if you invite them and tell them, hey, come here, buddy, they'll come. Do you believe that?
I don't know. I mean, yes. I mean, I feel like, see, I just don't know if it's just like my like lack of sensory. But I also don't provoke. I don't ever provoke. I'm always just like, if I'm in a situation where I'm trying to have contact with spirits of any kind, then I'm always like super respectful, and I'm always trying to like let them know, the reason why I'm here is,
A come in peace.
is right. And I'm coming here for you, not, for me. I'm trying to find out, if you're here and if you want me to know you're here or not. It's up to you whether you tell me you're here or not.
Right.
So I don't know. Like I don't ever, like, lots of people very much believe in like having to say something when they leave to sort of like shut it off or
protect themselves
like
from like bringing it.
Right. And I have never done that. I just don't when I leave. But nothing's ever happened to me. But maybe when something bad happens to me, I'll stop being such a smart ass and I'll just start doing it. But I don't know. Yeah, it's kind of but like, like with someone who is psychic, I mean, they're feeling all sorts of things, And so
Right.
maybe I have ghosts all over my house and they're like haunting the shit out of me and I have no idea because I'm like, oh, whatever.
Right.
That's just cars driving by and they're like, they're trying to like get me to like
Right.
listen to them, and I just don't know. I don't know.
Listen to me.
But
Right. I think they're matching your fucking energy. You go in and you're just like, I gotta see it to believe it, and they're like, okay, cool. Like, I feel like they're just matching your energy where you're like, hey, if I don't think anything's attached to me, then nothing's fucking it. Like,
right.
Because I've never felt people are like, you're gonna bring the spirits home or like whatever it is. I've
Right.
never felt that, where
Yeah.
you bring energies home. If that was
Right.
the case, anytime I went to the fucking food market, this
Right.
I'd bring home Mary Joe's fucking,
Right. That's what I mean. Like, just because you're going to, I've been in prisons before that have had horrible things happen in them. You know what I mean? Like nothing ever came home with me, you know? So it's like, I don't, not that I know of. So it's like, like you could just be like going to anywhere. You could be walking downtown somewhere, like on a street, and something, you could be passing through some crazy event you had no idea, or some residual ghost, or who knows, but yeah, I mean, energy's everywhere. So it's like, I'm not really sure. Like, I mean, and maybe that's more so like a protection thing for someone who is constantly getting like energy and contact and things like that, where you're trying to just like cut it off, and maybe that's more so for her, where she was like, this needs to stop, I need a break,
Well, okay, so I don't know if I'm schizophrenic or like, but sometimes I'll hear shit, and like, you know what I mean? Well, especially at night, I'll hear like weird shit, and like I've spoken to a bunch of. Do you believe in psychics, by the way?
Psychics?
Yeah.
I feel like there's like I feel like there's a lot of them, and only some of them, like a very small handful of them, actually are telling the 100% truth.
Right.
I feel like there's a lot that make the really, really legit ones look bad, I guess. Is the best way to put it.
Yes, I agree. Absolutely agree. Like, I believe in that sort of thing, like reading of energy and shit like that. But I'm skeptical of the individual person who's like, I can read energy. Can you?
Right. Right.
Like, prove it. But like, this woman was good, like, for what she did. Like, for me, there were certain things that she told me about that I was like, you would have never fucking known that. Like, social media wasn't popular back then, like, I think MySpace was a thing, but like, your life wasn't on the internet. And there were things that she told me about people in my life that I was like, okay, you're legit, fine. Like, you've proven yourself. And so she told me that, like, I was sensitive to energies and stuff like that. And so, like, sometimes I would hear shit in the middle of the night, and I'm like, bitch, am I fucking schizophrenic? Like, what the fuck is happening? And that's what in that context, she said, you got to tell them, you don't stop waking me up, leave me alone, and they'll leave you. They'll respect your wishes, I guess you could say.
Right. Yeah, and maybe like that probably happened to her all the time, where she's like hearing things and things are just constantly coming in that she doesn't necessarily want in at that time. So yeah, she has to. But me, I don't feel anything, so I'm just like, I mean, it's probably people talking to me right now. I have no idea.
Before you go to bed tonight, just be like, please come to me. Actually, don't do that. Don't do that. Don't listen to me.
You just never see me again. You'll just see some report on the news about ghost death.
Right.
Ghost has finally killed someone right before Halloween.
That would make a good Halloween story. Not that I would want that to happen, though.
Maybe you can interview me as a ghost. I'll come back.
I'll get the spirit box and
I'll let you know.
Interview me. You meet me at my frequency, AM, whatever channel, and we'll do another episode. But it's got to be after you visit the asylum, because I want to fucking hear that story so bad.
Yeah, I'm hoping that I'm hoping that at least, like, I know it's going to be worth it no matter what. Like, just seeing the building, just seeing the, just being there and hearing about it, and hopefully other people have experiences too that they can share. I always love hearing what happens to other people, So just because it doesn't happen to me doesn't mean I don't, I want to hear about it. I want to know what happened in especially in a place I'm at or been or whatever. So I'm really excited. I think it's going to be good. It's been a while since I've investigated anywhere, so I have a
feeling something crazy is going to happen.
Oh God.
I have a feeling. If something crazy, you have to email me if something crazy happens, and be
okay,
like, bitch.
I'll send you the evidence.
Right, send me the evidence. Make the subject bitch, just like, and I'll know.
Just really big, just like all in caps, like exclamation points, like crazy.
Right.
Okay.
Bitch, like, you jinxed it. Because I have a feeling. I'm telling you right now, I just have a strong feeling of something.
And then you'll read the email, and then you'll try to contact me, and you'll find out that I died there, and I sent it to you from beyond.
via the spirit box again. There it goes.
I really hope I don't die. I really don't want to die.
I'm praying. I'm not a praying person. I don't normally pray, but I will pray that nothing happens to you.
I don't know if it's gonna help, but I mean, thanks. I appreciate.
I had a friend. Okay, so I had a friend that I met through TikTok, and she's famous. Her name is Nikki Blonsky, and she played. You know the movie Hairspray with Zac Efron, the remake.
Yep.
She played Tracy Turnblad.
Oh, okay.
And so I met her through TikTok, and she was doing this event called Spooktober, where she was going to a haunted house. It was obviously a setup haunted house, not an actual like paranormal thing, but she was freaked out. And I literally beforehand, I said, I was like, listen, like something nuts is going to happen. And she's like, yeah, my luck, like something crazy is going to happen. And we were joking about it. And then she went, and she ended up fracturing her ankle running.
Oh, not that kind. Come on.
But no, I don't think that's going to happen. I think for you, something freaky is going to happen.
The 10's going to happen.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I think the 10 is, you're going to get your 10.
You're trying to break my leg. That's what you're trying to do.
You won't break any bones. You will not get hurt. You won't die. You're going to come back and you're going to be like, ghosts are real. It's a 10. It's going to be a 10. I'm telling you right now.
All right.
Fucking asylum. I can't wait to hear it. And seriously, thank you. How long have we been here? An hour? Probably, yeah. I'm not going to take up any more of your time, but I appreciate you talking to me about all these ghost stories. And where can we find your book, by the way?
You can find my book on my website. It's taydenbundy.com.
Okay.
And just on the store page, and just order them directly from me, and I'll love to sign them too. So
hell yes. Get Beyond Lincoln on the website. I'll link it in the description below if you guys want to check it out. I have a copy I'm giving away, but if you want to buy a copy, go fucking buy the copy. And thank you so much for hanging out with me. It's been wonderful.
Yeah, it's been awesome. Thank you so much for having me on and talking to me about ghosts. I love talking about ghosts. So.
Yeah, I can't wait. I cannot wait for part 2. I'm telling you right now.
Yeah. I will let you know for sure right afterwards if anything weird happens.
Okay.
Or I might make it a big mystery, make you worry about it for a while, kind of put you on like the
You're gonna play hard to get?
Yeah, definitely.
Damn it. All right, well, I'm gonna read. When do you go?
We're going the day before Halloween, so we're gonna go the 30th. So,
right.
But we're staying overnight into Halloween, so it's gonna be awesome. I think.
Well, define awesome, because for me, it would not be. It would be. I'd shit my pants.
I can't think of a better way to spend Halloween than add it on to Asylum.
True, that is true. That's very true. All right, I'll give you that. So how about this? I'm gonna set a reminder on my phone after we get off of this call to email you. Well, I'll email you my number, but I'll email you or text you, whatever, like the first week of November, and I'm gonna be like, so, and then you're gonna tell me that you experienced your 10. But thank you so much. Seriously, you're awesome. I appreciate you.
Thank you. This has been fun.
Yes, I can't wait to talk again. And again, Go to taydenbundy.com and get the book. And yeah, click the link in the description. Thank you so much.
All right. Have a good night.
You too. Bye.